Hello everyone. Welcome to the Wise Barbarian YouTube channel. I know I said my next video, well, my first video, once I'm able to make it, was going to be the I believe I know what's in the FNAF 4 box, and don't worry, it is going to be that. It's just more often than not, you need something to go along with the Yap session. So I don't really have background footage of any kind, so I'm just gonna play some Rainbow Six Siege in the background, because frick it, I'm not just searching up some random B-roll footage to put into a video. Oh, and I don't feel like, recording this and then talking over it. I'm not positive when I log in. Okay, I've gotten logged in now. It's going down the stuff. So now on to what I wanted to talk about. The FNAF 4 box. Whew, this is going to be a doozy thing. Now, I want to clarify something. I'm going to prepare y'all right now. I've gotten one thing about my theory that is flawed. I will admit that in advance. See if you can catch it. And there's also one other thing about the theory that I hate. It's actually why I've kind of, well, it personally isn't really the thing that I've put off. The reason why I put it off is I wanted this theory to be fully formed. But again, I just can't figure out why it. Oh, I'm trying to click this. I haven't been on in a while, so it's got a lot of updates and stuff. I'm gonna turn the volume down on it, hopefully. Yeah. But either way, there's been a lot of stuff that I've had to try to think about to try to kind of complete the theory. But there's one thing, and there are each day, because I want to clarify this theory has not been like, oh, I just hyper focus on one aspect and only thought about it. No, I've actually been thinking about multiple things, really. I've even watched some videos. It was a lot of game theory. Shout out to Game Theory. Day before I got a lot of my info from. I want to clarify though. I basically, anytime I make any video like this, never default to me as a source for information, but default to my sources. You know what I mean? Like, treat my discussion like teachers allow you to treat Wikipedia, which basically just means, yeah, I'm not a reliable source, but my sources are. And genuinely, I say this genuinely. That is the most accurate way of using me as a source of information. Don't trust what I'm saying, but trust the people who told me what I'm saying. You know? But yeah. Either way, the FNAF 4 box is a thing that genuinely is told to us as by Scott Cawthon as the only thing we ever really struggled to solve, the only thing that truly went unsolved. And I actually have a theory that does actually work in almost any parameters for solving the game. Because most people say, well, what if we just use the first four? Because originally, as far as we know, there's Five Nights at Freddy's 3 was really supposed to be where everything ended until he extended to 4. And then eventually made Sister Location. And now we're at, I forget which game is the most recent to come out. I think it's Secret of the Mimic, but as far as I know, he could have did something huge for the April Fool's release that nobody's talking about. Which I'm pretty sure Secret of the Mimic came before, or April State. And I'm just gonna point out the biggest reason why I am absolutely not the best source on things. I'm forgetful as frick. I'm just gonna censor myself because I'm about to drop some bombs that definitely should absolutely be considered, and I don't want to take the risk that at some point game theory ends up doing a reaction on this video and all of a sudden I'm swearing like a sailor about to sail the seven seas. I'm gonna have to throw on an eye patch and start going around going arg. But yeah, I love how I said I'm gonna use this for B-roll footage. I was like, oh, where's that? I'm gonna use this to play while I took. Okay, but to be honest, should I use this game? Now I think about it. Yeah, whatever. Gotta get focus, motherfucker. I hope I said that fast enough. That doesn't actually get good. Since this, I basically use the equivalent of the A instead of R, the KA instead of a CK. But yeah, whatever. I'll just leave it on this screen for now. Don't want to take the risk that it starts using voice chat because I'm currently recording this with an actual microphone. Yeah, it's on a headset, but hey, it's an actual microphone. You don't have to worry about my hand whipping around holding my phone to record like I'm doing using one of those tape recorders that you see journalists using in old movies. So I've gone up in the world. I've gotten one Xbox headset microphone instead of my phone's mic. I'm hoping when I re-listen to this video to check for quality because I don't edit my stuff. I don't. Y'all get to see my unhinged weirdness all laid bare. You want to pay me like one of your friends, girl? Nah, but you're gonna hear me like a painting of one of your French girls. I'm goober. I'm absolutely goober. But okay, trying to get back on track. Basically, what my theory encapsulates is it actually kind of solves a bunch of things, some of which the community just for some reason is not asking quite about, even if they probably should be. One of these things being, why is there a replica of the FNAF 4 house connected to a pizzaplex? Mind you, it's a replica of the house from FNAF 4, okay? Why would that be connected to the pizzaplex? And another thing being why, everyone kind of just assumes Michael knows to go to the sister location, the specific one. Because mind you, Freddy Fazbear's is a franchise, okay? Meaning that technically there's multiple. Any franchise has more than just the one building. It's Fazbear Entertainment Company. It is a franchise, which means there's obviously more than one Freddy Fazbear's location. The fact that the story has only had us at 3, with the first game having the original locale, the second game having the place before it, apparently, as well as the sister location itself. And for anyone who wants to find, what about the location of the third game? Technically, that was just some people using one of the abandoned places as a horror attraction. It's like the equivalent of a Spirit Halloween. It's not, except this thing. We don't really know if it was like a seasonal thing that these guys were doing. They basically just raided the place and found the corpse suit, and decided, let's make an attraction out of it. Let's make it spooky. Let's make this haunted house, because that's kind of what it was. We weren't playing in Pizzeria Night Guard anymore. We're just protecting the haunted house now. That's basically what we were doing. We were essentially Night Guard at Spirit Halloween, Five Nights at Freddy's edition. But yeah, and to be honest, the theory that Michael is the one going through these pizza places, the best part about my theory is it doesn't disprove this, but it also can be used as motivation behind this, separate for everyone's belief that he was brainwashed by Afton. Or at least to an extent, because heck, even if you believe that he was brainwashed, well, this could absolutely be the brainwashing. But the first question it answers, there's my theory answers, and I'm just gonna go on about the theory, so you can get more context. But the first question that the theory answers is a question that, surprisingly enough, no one really asked in the community, because everyone's just assumed a very specific thing that, based on everything we are shown in the games before this game, everything we are shown in 1, 2, and 3, should not be the case. Yet, For some reason, the entire community has accepted it as the truth. But I believe we are not playing as the grandchild through each night. Now, there's a reason why I specifically bring up the recreation of the FNAF 4 house connected to the pizza place. It's because, one, in the, very specifically, the first Five Nights at Freddy's, we had a similar setup. And even in the second one, we had a similar setup with the brawl and whatnot. The first house we have is almost designed like it's one of the buildings in like in the first and second game, like a combination of them almost. Yeah, everyone wants to point out that it's shaped like the box, but what a lot of people aren't realizing is in layout, in how you survive the night, it's almost like it's basically taking what they know from the first two places, or two pizzerias, and combining them layout wise. Not only that, but there's a piece of evidence I specifically want to call attention to that a lot of people would only bring this specific item up when talking about the books, but it's canonically in the games. It's canonically how one of the characters in Sister Location is able to quote unquote speak. It's one of the things mentioned on the blueprint. So even if you just want to make the argument, well, that's more of a book thing, it still exists in the video game world. Okay. And that thing being the sound illusion disc. Now, here's the thing. We don't have a very good timeline of the level of tech that Afton and Henry are working with. But what we do have is is the tech that they have worked with. And obviously, anyone who's ever attempted to create something new will tell you you have to have at least some form of a prototype because you will never get it fully right on the first try. So what I'm wondering is that in FNAF 4, what I believe FNAF 4 isn't the story of a kid dying and us playing as him in some form of a hallucinatory coma as he is haunted by the memories of the animatronics that he once loved. What I believe this is we are playing as the brother of that kid, the one who tossed his own sibling into the jaws of an animatronic and caused him to get that trauma. Because here's the thing, and I was actually discussing this theory with a friend of mine, and he even mentioned one aspect that, was like the one thing that I couldn't really dispute. And thing is, though, he didn't bring it up. He allowed me to actually go down this line, and I thank him for such. But I think I might have come close, but I forget exactly what the point was that I couldn't disperse. But trust me, it'll come back to me when we're discussing everything else. But the thing is, one of the points that was similar was that every single thing that we experience in Five Nights at Freddy's 4 that leads us to believe that we are playing as the quote-unquote crying child in his dying moments allow us the same exact ability to think that it could also be Michael. Michael Afton. And the thing is, there's not a single bit of evidence that shows that it's the crying child that doesn't disprove it also could be Michael. But there is one piece of evidence, one thing, one very crucial thing that most people brush off immediately that not enough people are talking about. Everyone talks about the cutscene before the box is revealed. How the psychic friend Fredbear, as he's known, as his little nickname he's gotten by the community, is talking to the crying child. And all of a sudden, the voice, which has always been one color, changes to another. That I will put you back together. Everyone believes this is a line said by William. Or whatever, Everyone always has their own interpretation of the box. Some people believe that maybe there's another murder and this was the child's body. That's the most recent one I've seen, which I gotta say, That's got to be one of the craziest theories I've ever witnessed. That like what at the end of the video, even though I still didn't disagree, I definitely was still okay. But like what? But yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm doing a lot of stuff. I don't know, I'm interjecting a lot. I mean, heck, even though I'm gonna apologize for the apologies I had to list. But when we are playing, what we are playing through in FNAF 4 isn't the crying child in his last moments in a hospital bed, but what I believe to be William Afton creating this pseudo hell to torment Michael for what he did. In the movies, Michael is fully adult when we see him in the second movie. Basically, just a damn near just following in his father's footsteps. And even in the games, he kind of followed in his father's footsteps. You know, he worked with animatronics. No one got killed by them. The only difference is and William got, his suit killed him, and they both got killed by a suit. But for one case, one still wore the suit in death, kind of bound by it, by the remnants of their own corpse being left within it, and the other one got used as the suit by the one that killed them. But either way, they both died due to a suit, due to one of the animatronics they worked on, with, and were eventually kind of, I guess, revived by. Well, genuinely, I have no freaking clue. Like, everyone, obviously, the remnant argument about, extracting remnant from the kids, but that's something that kind of came from the books, so I'm trying to not judge the books on this argument. I only got one physical copy, and I didn't got any of them on digital. But, thing is, genuinely, I believe that the key to solving this mystery is not let's just choose everything from the first three before, or let's just do everything from sister location and before. But in reality, everything we need to solve the FNAF 4 box is in reality in FNAF 4, with us only really needing the context of things from the previous, yes, and maybe even the future games. Because Scott has always had this thing where if we don't seemingly have all the pieces, he does eventually give them to us. The thing is, he doesn't give us the pieces straight up, he gives us context by either reiterating something or simply just adding something new to complete it. He's never left us truly in the dark. It's why I believe when the DLC that was originally going to come out about him revealing what was in the box was in actuality somewhat related to why in that one Halloween of the DLC that we got, we ended up getting a Jacko Chica, Jacko Bonnie, but not a Jacko Foxy. Heck, I don't think we really ever got Jacko. We got Grim Foxy in the Dreadbear DLC, and he's got two other appearances, I think. I know of like the 2D. I think one of the Princess quests he appears in, and literally the same type of area. But I believe the reason why the Grim Foxy, the closest thing we have to Halloween Jacko Foxy, whatever, the reason why he appears in a maze is, well, if you look at the outline, the maze has always had a very rectangular outline. Like, like something else we know of, the box. And even in FNAF 4, when Chica or Bonnie or Freddy attack you, it's very clear they're coming after you immediately. The second they're in the door, or the second they're fully collected on the bed. But Foxy, when he gets in, he doesn't come straight for you. He goes to the closet. Mind you, the closet, and here's where our first bit of additive context from a future thing comes place. In FNAF 2, in the second movie, in the FNAF Freddy's movie, the second one, Vanessa pulls a box out of the closet. Everyone's is using specifically the fact that she's pulling out random toys to follow the literature. What I believe, though, is, and I will bring up the toys a bit later, in a later topic, but what I believe the box we're pulling out of the closet is Scott giving us a bit of context towards, because mind you, she doesn't pull it out. Like if you look at the closet, you can see it's a huge mess in that closet floor. That box wasn't really towards the back of it. It was buried. It was kind of surrounded by the random junk on that closet floor. I mean, seriously, bro needed an organizer. Seriously, for that closet. It's not even like a big wall closet, but I still think bro needed an organizer for that. Dear gosh, dear gosh. But either way, it's just straight up the closet with the box. And you know who else is the only animatronic to be associated with the closet? Foxy. You know who wears the Foxy mask when they are hoisting their little brother up to get their head chomped off? Well, not chomped off, chomped into some brain damage. Well, it was in fact Michael Afton. Okay? And the thing is, I genuinely believe in the current arc of Finest Ways, we're going to likely start with the Help 1 and 2, with us finally finding out the character we play as in that game is Cassie's father, and us simultaneously finding out that apparently he is the character known as Bonnie Bro, apparently by the community, at least by my opinion at least. I have a feeling the next couple of arcs in the FNAF timeline might actually be about the people that Michael was friends with, but that's a separate theory for maybe a bit later if there's any more validity to it. A couple of things involving a DLC involving a random girl, which followed up with a random game, finding out we're not only playing as that girl's father for that game, but the fact that we are apparently also playing as the Bonnie bro. Uh, yeah, that's a lot to find out, but it's not enough to go running with, not yet. But I do believe. But the thing is, if this is the case, why are we starting with Bonnie Bro? Wouldn't it make sense to have more focus on Michael? And yeah, you could argue, well, isn't sister location him getting disemboweled and used as a meat suit to let a robot escape after finding his sister? Wouldn't he already have gotten his comeuppance? Wouldn't we already focused on him enough? But that's the thing. With Bonnie Bro, it seems specifically we're focused on him, and when he is assimilated to become part, or he literally becomes the robot that hands you the Vanny mask when you're playing as Cassidy in Ruin. It felt like, okay, we just watched him. He's finally trying to move on, and part of moving on, he chooses a job to work at the Fazco, and he's just doing some general routine, whatever. He's just trying to make up. And thing is, the past comes back to get him, and all of a sudden his conscience is in a random robot that forces his daughter to take a mask, which is theoretically the exact same mask that he wore when he was a technician. Which, to be honest, would be really awesome to find out that the Faztech wrench that we use in Ruin is also his wrench, which I think would have been a really nice little detail if it was the case. Like she does mention that she recognizes it, but not as her dad, just as one of the Faztech tools. But either way, it literally in this case, what would have been Michael's thing? Why would Michael, still be able to live, even if it is as a corpse? I believe genuinely that we specifically play as Michael when going to Night 4, when going to FNAF 4 in all of its nights. And one of my biggest reasons for believing this is in FNAF 1, and FNAF 2, and in FNAF 3, we are never playing as the person we are playing as in the nights, and the same person playing the nights in the mini games. Yet consistently, when we are playing the mini games, we are playing as the crying child. Yet, if that's the case, if we're playing as the crying child in the games, in the mini games, why would we be playing as the crying child in the nights? And here's my biggest thing. Here's the thing that you might think is, oh, well, if that's the case, he's, then why would he have this? Okay, I'm about to mention something that I know what it can be easier down with, but I've already gotten this on. And I've been dancing around this fact, but I'm going to warn y'all right now. I'm about to point out a very specific item a lot, and no, I do not like that this is genuinely like plausible, but the sound delusion disc. Get used to hearing that real quick. And no, I don't want it to be the end all be all, but it damn near ending all. But I believe, because obviously Evan kind of, you know, I mean, I said Evan, but, the crying child. I'm just going to let you know right now. I watch a lot of videos. It's so far, we have maybe some form of proof that his name was Evan, but it just feels loose, but the urge to say it is there. I've been holding that back. If you ever hear me hesitate for saying you're saying the crying child's video, it's because I'm trying not to say Evan. Because I don't know if the urge is not enough, but like, I don't know if it's like, wow, acceptable enough, but like, I don't know, it seems plausible to me. But either way, crying child is there at his father's place of work. So obviously, likely, his father was the one working there at the time. And the thing is, and it was literally his birthday that he was there for. So obviously, likely, his father, the one who owned the place, is with being there at his son's birthday would not have been out of the question. Now, could he have been distracted by something when Michael went to put his other younger brother's head in the animatronic mouth? Absolutely, he could have been distracted doing something. Like again, Henry and William were like the co-founders of the brand. Okay, they trust me, if there was a problem that was going on with anything there, likely, if they were there, they were the first people to be notified about it. And meaning they were the most qualified to solve it. And, parts and service always got something going on there. Apparently, I mean, that is where the kind of quote unquote game ending, game over scene happens in the first game, where you see you was essentially your own corpse up inside one of the chutes with your own eyeballs hanging out. But the thing is, you also see you, no one else but you, or in this case, the crying child in the game, Michael, Foxy, Bunny, bro, the Chica dude, and the Freddy guy, And these four, speaking up for Evan, it's just putting his head in the thing. That's all you see. I don't think you really see any other major patrons there who could have stopped children, but I feel like William there. William is consistently just. We don't know much about him personally. We only know him as the psychotic child murderer. We don't know him much as a person until Secret of the Mimic. And even then, child murderer or not, he's just kind of an asshole. Look, I know I just said earlier, I don't want to swear too much, but I gotta call it like I see it, bro. And dear God, is that thing so seeable? He's a butt. He's an asshole. He's just a horrible person in general. Okay. So to say, I mean, he's already not against he's already not against just murdering children for some random ass goal. You really think he wouldn't torture his own son because he murdered his brother? And that's what I believe, not because that's what I believe. Night or the fourth game to be. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is us living or playing through what is essentially Michael being tormented by his father, forced to suffer through the illusions of, all of his greatest nightmares. Now, here's the thing. In FNAF 3, it is canon that we play as Michael, or at least the same guy, as we're playing as the other two games, which is reasonably to say, Michael. And we're there to try to, I guess, put an end to our father, William, or in this case, Springtrap, as he's became. But the thing is, while it is kind of a first time we're ever in an actual 1v1 with the animatronic, I say our chances to actually defeat him or in a fight absolutely are much greater this time. Yeah, but we still are haunted by phantoms, specifically phantoms of the previous animatronics. The thing is, the phantoms are also of specifically animatronics that we have also seen in the Nightmare games. With very specifically Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Mangle, and the puppet was known as the marionette. And for some reason, Balloon Bitch is there. But there is one thing that I want to specifically call out because this piece of information, heck, even when I was telling my buddy about this part of the theory, even he didn't really know how to properly respond with it. But Plush Trap. Plush Trap very specifically, theoretically, even if he is kind of a plot hole even in my theory of us playing as Michael as young. This is why I also could believe this is kind of just heck, even with Michael gonna make when he's young, and originally Plush Trap was not Plush Trap, and he was actually like Spring Bunny or whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is Plush Trap should not exist at the same time Michael and the crying child Michael are young, because Plush Trap, that's his name, not Plush Bonnie, not Plush Spring Bonnie, not Plush Golden Bonnie. It's Plush Trap, specifically a version of Spring Trap. Their father, specifically their father, after he has had his own corpse trapped by the springs that lock him in place. Okay, that's why his name is Spring Trap. It's because the springs had sprung and trapped his body in the suit, forcing him to slowly bleed out and die, experiencing what is probably one of the most traumatic deaths anyone in the series has experienced so far. Because bro wasn't just, forced to slowly bleed out. He was forced to slowly bleed out, alone in a back room that he had previously used to murder several children, while surrounded by the ghost of those dead children. Okay, this was not just a painfully excruciating death for him, but an emotionally excruciating one too, and mentally brought him apart. But the thing is he is still trapped in that suit. Heck, even by the time he becomes Burn Trap, he still has while that may not be canon, he still has bits and pieces of him always constantly in that suit, trapped there. It's like his physical remnants of him, just like it's similar to how he himself refuses to die. The physical bits of him that are still there refuse to leave as well. He is always there, rotting inside, never dying, and constantly in a living hell. But enough of the edginess. We're cutting ourselves on that edge. But the thing is, Plush Trap only exists potentially as something that was in ahead of someone who would have seen it. I believe that the fourth game definitely takes place after the third, because that is the only reason why Plush Trap would be there. Every other animatronic has existed before the third. We've had the puppet who was along with the toys. We do have somewhat confirmation that the second game is a prequel to the first. So obviously, knowing that means that both the toy and the wizards existed before what we know to be the core four. Which, honestly, looking at their designs, it kind of makes me feel like how everyone was believing that the unwithered versions of the wither animatronics was that they originally were. I think personally, the fact that some of the quote unquote branding icons they have does appear to have an unwithered version of Withered Freddy. I generally personally believe that the unwithered kind of designs that people have might have actually really been their like original design before they started withering away, and that the current like the core four that we know, the regular Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, are in actuality just combinations of aspects that we know from the first like animatronics that were made, which were specifically the withers and the toy animatronics. Since if you look at their designs, they do clearly seem to have certain things combined, like certain actual aspects combined. For instance, Freddy, he clearly takes the more rounded head shape from Toy Freddy, but the more like realistic, kind of warmer, darker fur tones mixed with the subtlety of humanity or whatever from Wither Freddy. It takes aspects of both to combine them to make the new models so that they are basically. And I want to definitely point out that with the ideas of these very specific aspects of the animatronics going forward and how certain animatronics continue on. Whatnot, I would like to specifically mention that even if the certain one of the one of the clues I should actually point out that when Matt Pat was hosting his live stream with coworkers, one of them was emailed about specifically Toy Chica's beak and how those dolls were of the toy animatronics in one of the games, but I feel like that in itself was probably a misinterpreted piece of information what he was trying to give towards the box about how maybe the times online is a bit different. And it could very easily have been, maybe, just maybe, that what we were playing in the mini game was much farther in the past than the actual games itself. You know? But then again, Scott Cawthon has always been vague with the hints he gives. He never spells anything outright. He never he let's just say, well, like here, let me point out the previous thing I mentioned earlier. As I said, even if he never truly gives, even though he does give us almost everything he needs, more often than not, uh, we mostly have everything from the next game. All we need is context. If we more often than not in each of the first three games, we were able to solve everything just fine. But but even when we weren't able to solve things, well, usually he gave us context in the next game. But that's the thing. We needed context. We had the clues. We just didn't have what the clues meant. Not only that, but there are certain aspects that I feel have always kind of hung around in each of the games. Now, I want to mention something very specific. You may be wondering, why did I specifically choose Rainbow Six Mobile to use as background footage for me talking about a FNAF game? That is a combination of two reasons. One, I don't have any FNAF games on mobile, and I don't really know how to record on PC. Yeah, yeah. So in reality, the only game I have is Ultimate Custom Night, and also I haven't played that yet. Look, I don't even know if the PC I have could run it. I got a very crappy computer. Even calling it a computer is basically giving too much credit, and I'm basically just lowering brain cells to mention the computer. It's a computer. It's computer. That's basically what it is. It's a computer. But yeah, there's a reason why my favorite computer game I played is Soda Dungeon. A game that's one of its greatest selling points is retro 16-bit art style, pretty much. You know, that's, again, I can play it and it's fun. And honestly, if you ever get the chance to play the mobile version, they say after they, if you still have the ability to play the mobile version since they took that off the Play Store, I highly recommend it. And no, I did not censor myself. I just kind of stopped talking before I said, the sugar honey iced tea word. I don't even know if people know about the sugar honey iced tea. You know, that used to be a way to say the bad word for poop when you didn't want to say the bad word for poop. You just didn't want to say poop or crap. You know, you say sugar honey iced tea. Not gonna lie, when I first heard that, I was thinking, sugar and honey and an iced tea, they really don't sound that bad. Then eventually, years later, I actually tried honey, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe it does sound bad actually. Maybe it sounds horrible. Yeah, but enough about my weird ass taste buds. And I said ass, not because I don't care. I'm not censoring myself that way. Frick the Gen F slang. But either way, I personally believe that when we are playing as in my theory here, Michael, in the FNAF 4 house, we're not actually playing in the house of FNAF 4. We are in that recreated version of the house that we have seen in almost all of the maps. Why would Scott Cawthon keep emphasizing that there's a recreation of the FNAF 4 house? Or recreating things as the FNAF 4 house if that wasn't the case. Remind you, in the mini games, when we are actually in the house, and even in Midnight Mortarist, when we are supposedly still in the house, it has never actually really looked like the actual house from FNAF 4. And that's why I believe when we are playing FNAF 4, we aren't even in the house. We aren't even in their real house. What we are in is basically a prison, a nightmare that Michael is forced to live through. And here's another thing: during the moments, people would talk about the hallucinations we see, where sometimes there's an IV bag, we hear a heartbeat monitor. While the crying child would be in the room with those things. Mind you, he had a head injury. His head was probably bandaged. So there's no even guarantee that he had his head unwrapped enough where his eyes could open. There's no guarantee that he was ever fully conscious. Mind you, part of the theory that we are playing as Evan during those nights is that we are playing through him in his final few nights alive, as he is living through the memories of the animatronics, that he was scared of to begin with. So yeah, obviously that explains why they would be there in his nightmares. It also explains why we'd have the nightmare versions of them. But you know what it doesn't explain? Other than Plush Trap? It doesn't explain why certain versions of certain characters are there. Mind you, we can definitely tell that when Evan does receive the bear bite lobotomy, from his brother, that it's likely it's specifically Golden Freddy, as we know him as, and Spring Bonnie likely on those animatronics are the ones likely actually on stage. Otherwise, we probably would have seen Chica, at least someone on the corner. But we can definitely tell it's specifically a Fredbear, not just Freddy Fazbear. It's specifically Fredbear. He's even drawn, or I guess, kind of pixelatedly different to be even whiter, which has been the canonical trait of Golden Freddy. The fact that he's supposedly a bit heftier than regular Freddy, other than his lighter color scheme and different colors for his bow and hat. He's also just fatter, I guess, because apparently they said big boy is bigger. That's why no Chica on the stage. So apparently Freddy ate him or ate her. These are chicken strips tonight. Yeah. But either way, that being the crucial point for this. Now, there is one part of the argument. Now, every part of my argument I want to bring up. There's probably a lot of things you are saying, and before you fully type that comment in the comment that you're wanting to type, I would like to mention. Yes, I understand the holes. Now let me fill them in for you. Okay, before you start sending complaints, it's about how many potholes are in this flat, holes in this road. Now pothole number one. Why specifically the emphasis on Fredbear having a second version of just called Nightmare, where he is literally damn near invisible, well, with the parts that would likely have been the darkest, maybe having a light glow outline because of type of those animatronics they were probably painting and everything on loose, and specifically the only thing not properly invisible about him, or being his endoskeleton, being something that maybe the crime child would have saw as he was literally has head shoved inside. That's the thing. Here's two aspects about that. One, he was shoved in by his brother. His brother was at the front of the group, charging him up, throwing him in. And as the brother of someone, and as someone who also has a brother, and while I'm not going to say I would ever do something like this to my brother, no, if I wanted to cause bodily harm to my brother, I'd just start an actual fight with him. My brother is unnaturally violent. He's more violent than he is angry. Like, he's quicker to violence than he is to anger. So I just throw like two taunts at him, and all of a sudden, bro's like already gone full barbarian berserk mode. Seriously. Like, I call myself the wise barbarian because it's a combination of like what is essentially my best stat, my wisdom, but it's also like who I am when shit hits the fan. I'm full barbaric. I'm full on barbaric. But thing is, my brother is worse than me when it comes to anger. But the only reason why I probably wouldn't call him a barbarian based on my name scheme is because I'd more accurately call him a wizard. Because, mind you, this description is when shit hits the fan, and it's much more accurate to call him a wizard than a barbarian. Because for him, shit didn't even really hit the fan. He just started to explode. He's just dead. He acted like it's the end of the world because he dubbed his toe. He's a drama queen, pretty much. But yeah. Enough about my horrible life. Let's get talk about these characters' horrible lives. Yay, ignorance. But yeah, what's to say they weren't able to ignore their awful life. So likely, as the brother, the one who was just shoved into the animatronic bear's mouth, as well as the son of the guy who works on that animatronic bear's mouth, I guarantee you he's seen the endoskeleton. I can almost guarantee you that. At some point, he had witnessed the endoskeleton. He already didn't care about boundaries. One of the ways he scares the crying child to make him cry is by hiding under the child's bed. Okay, he does not care about boundaries. He was definitely an angsty teen. I can guarantee you that. He definitely listened to a lot of My Chemical Romance in Linkin Park, and probably based his entire identity off of that. I'm glad I only did the former, and I even only did half of that. I don't know why. I just wasn't really big on My Chemical Romance, but Linkin Park I still listen to. In the end, is gonna be one of the number one songs I listen to, no matter what. It does not matter. Okay. Do I have depression? No. I know I don't have depression. I can kind of experience happiness. I may not be able to smile, but that's genetics. That's not an emotional thing. That's because my upper lip is too short to do so. No, I don't have any diseases. I'm just like biologically big chinned. Pretty much. I got a weird as frick jawline. And a weird as frick face. I am weird as frick. I'm freaking weird, and it's amazing. I put on non-slip shoes to basically gain ice physics in reality. Trust me, I've learned to stop trying to make sense of my life. Damn near the second I had it. But, yeah, I'm trying to get back on focus here. Jesus, take the wheel, because I'm about to take us off course. You know what I'm saying? Just gotta just take some breath. I don't smoke. I don't drink, but I got my own ways to calm my nerves. Sniper breathing tactics. I gotta stop laughing so much. Try something though. It's existing. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. But basically, yeah, I'm gonna drink some water. I'm not dehydrated. I'm just super dry. This summer got me sweating. I'm gonna pour myself some water. Well, but basically, yeah, yeah, I want to mention the biggest issues I have with my theory. I know it's not fully finished. I know I've done just as much rambling, non things related to the theory, as I have things actually related to my theory. And I just want to say the sound illusion dish solves way too much, and I'm trying to ignore and I'm trying to stop bringing them up. But damn near literally. Okay, the argument, now I'm just gonna go on a whole ass rant. I'm gonna drink some of the water I just pour myself just so I can do this. Okay, three. Okay, I just wet my throat. Because I need to make sure I'm ready for this. Okay. Now, now that I'm ready, now y'all make sure you're ready. Pause the video, drink some water, get you a snack, because I'm about to go off. This video is like already, I'm on the fifth one, 50 minutes long. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm about to get way too into it. Be prepared. For all you probably watching this as a game theory react because they just randomly were sent this or found this, please don't worry. Hopefully they're already at their second episode. Now I will admit, yeah, Ash is way better at just not filling about 90% of the video with it being paused. Congratulations, Ash. You are one of the only ones that genuinely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, caused the channel to improve after MatPat left. This is not shade towards the rest of y'all. Lee, Tom, trying to go specifically in order of the names, and Santi, there we go, I got it, yeah, got it, Santi, and, shit, if I can't remember her name, and she's the one who's been uploading the most, this is gonna hurt me so much. I will not continue until I remember her name. I cannot leave one name unremembered. This, especially when it's not the one who started uploading the most. She literally put in the most work. Any other channels immediately after I hand to her. I'm not continuing until I remember her name. I'm holding the video hostage. I will remember her. Damn, I hate ADHD. I hate it. Hate to snatch and forget from this. Come on. Remember her name. Remember her name. You know, we're just gonna delegate this to a meme and just say to this day he is still trying to remember her name and just leave it at that. 10 bajillion years later, insert the SpongeBob meme. I can't remember shit. Can't remember shit. My brain did. I'll remember her name eventually, and it'll be at the worst possible moment. I'm just gonna continue. But basically, as I was saying, the sound illusion disc. Sound illusion disc damn near explain everything as part of this theory. First of all, obviously we're playing from someone who's about the height of a child in the game. That's why the Evan theory is, us playing as the crying child is not fully disproven. Except the sound illusion disc have been shown in the books, yeah. But then again, remember, all the external media has been best used for context. So that's what we're only allowing ourselves to use. We're only taking things from the game with context from the originals. Because remember, what purpose would they actually have for nightmare animatronics at Fazbear Entertainment? Especially when those nightmare attacks are coming into someone's home, a home of someone who is the son of the person who works on the animatronics, to attack the child. But that's the thing, okay? Genuinely, that's why I believe when we are playing through the nights, not in the minigames, in the nights of an F4, we are playing as Michael because the whole thing is a big elaborate like punishment and of trauma for him, designed specifically for him as a punishment for getting his brother killed, or for really being the one to kill his own brother. Because remember, William is nothing if not crazy as fuck. He is nothing if not very much a child murderer. Very much someone willing to kill children, other children, to try to bring back his one son. Okay? So, very clearly, if he's willing to kill other random children, and mind you, one of the first children he killed was Charlie. You know, the puppet. The girl who wanted to possess the puppet. He did that because he was just drunk and angry. He didn't even have a motive for that. That's him drunk and angry. Because the thing is, when you're drunk, you don't filter yourself as much. At least as far as I know. I know my dad is definitely much more of a bumbling idiot when he's drunk. So I know he really is now. But more often than not, the type of drunk you are, if you're lucid somewhat, then in reality, that's not just you drunk. That's not a drunken state. That is, you're no longer filtered or caring of your words or actions. And him, while drunk, decided to go to his place of work, murder his co-worker's daughter right in front of the establishment, leave her in an alley, all right, just to supposedly, according to Midnight Motors, just drive home to his place and check up on his son who has escaped through the back window, and to kind of just be angry the entire time. It kind of shows more of who he is as a person than anyone would ever want to realize or even admit in some people's cases. Because genuinely, that's just kind of who he is. He's just kind of a horrible scumbag. I guarantee you, sad part is most more people are probably gonna thirst over him now, but fuck it, we ball. One of my many mottos. The thing is, the sound illusion discs are something he created. Now, obviously, he created them supposedly to help lure in children. The issue with that is, he made the Funtime animatronics already super friendly. But the sound illusion disc was something supposedly we know Foxy was able to use one of these discs to kind of mimic the voices of parents to help them away. But remember, there's sound illusion disc, which requires at least some form of a visual aspect. Otherwise, it's not a sound illusion disc. It's just basically just the equivalent of like those AI chatbots that have the ability to quote unquote speak using a synthesized voice. Sound illusion, it requires there to be an illusion. You can't cast a fireball with no fire. If anything, that's just a ball. You know? And in the same vein, you can't cast an illusion spell in any game without there being an illusion cast by the illusion spell. So if anything, it's like the sound illusion disc is just creating an illusion through sound. So in a weird kind of way, that would basically mean two things. One, basically you could just break the illusion with finding a frequency, but that's completely unrelated to the thing I'm going to bring up right now. But the other thing is, these illusions seemingly might not have to be bound by the fact that, well, more often than not, they're put on the animatronics to change how they look. Likely, there could very easily be something flashing through some random speakers that we don't see. There's a lot of things about the house that I feel is very weird and off-putting. See, here's the thing. I live in a house that is actually weirdly kind of bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. But one thing that my whole family was very well acquainted with when we first moved in is before we brought in the furniture, the sound echoed very easily. And even with how our current setup is for the house, furniture wise, there's still kind of a bit of a resonance when it comes to sound in the house. And I'll admit, I'm a thin guy. I ain't got much meat on my bones. I have been accurately described as a viable toothpick for an actual giant. I say actual like that because I'm 6'5". I'm already huge enough. I'm a 6'5" toothpick. I'm built like I'm under construction. If I suck in my gut, I can show you my beating heart. You don't have to pull it out. I can put my beating heart in my own hand just by sucking in my gut and putting my hand under the area where or my ribs decide to stop being ribs and just reveal. But the thing is, and the reason why I bring this up is because there isn't much furniture in that house. Obviously, there's the bed in the bedroom, but there isn't at all anything but a chair in most of the hallways. Chair, doorways, and the bedroom generally has the most furniture, but that could genuinely just be because of the fact that, well, it's the child's bedroom. It's got to have a bed, and it's got, the basic table with a little lamp on it, and some toys. But even when you go to the closet, the only one thing you ever see in the closet is, well, Foxy staring at your face. Once he's in there. But again, all of that lack of furniture means there's lack of things to absorb the sound, meaning the sound can travel more, which means this kind of becomes damn near the perfect chance to test the sound illusion disc. So, what if Michael, as the punishment from William, was forced to be the test subject for these sound illusion discs? It would even explain why they were used to create the quote unquote twisted ones in that one book by Scott Cawthon, about how they were twisted versions of the animatronics. And scary using sound illusion disc. It'd basically be because this was him like basically beta testing them. These were the nightmare animatronics were basically the prototypes of the twisted ones, I guess you could say. But yeah. And because of that, everything about the second you realize that, and what makes it even funnier is the sound illusion disc were also in sister locations when they were revealed to exist. So this would basically be context. It was something that would count as valuable context for an unsolved mystery in 4. Because mind you, when we do leave something very much unsolved, the context is usually in the next game. So in reality, we really only need to look at sister location, not even Pizzeria Simulator, just sister location. And because of that, because of everything we could use as context in sister location, the entirety of FNAF 4 being a punishment of being forced to test something Mike or William wanted to use to help kill and capture other children is a genuinely viable option. You may be asking, okay, so the illusion chicks makes it scary night force. Okay, that makes sense. You want to use the argument that okay, but we are shorter. We are stretched out. Unless we only think we're shorter, because like the aforementioned sound illusion discs make us think that we're shorter because we see that we're shorter, but maybe we're not actually that short. Or maybe this is just something that we were actually doing as a small child, and maybe plush trap is just we just don't know. Whichever. But and even when we make the argument, well, plush trap is maybe it's just the plush is just a bit faded. If that's the case, then genuinely, why would every other like nightmare animatronic not also be a bit faded? Anyway, and even if you wanted to make the argument, well, then again, the golden Freddy and Spring Bonnie always were older, so obviously that means their plushies would have existed longer. Even if you wanted to do that argument, the Mangle toy is still the Mangle Nightmare is still mangled. Okay. And mind you, they are plushies. And what we see in the end screen, if I remember correctly, was one of the animatronic, like one of the plushies of them, had its head ripped off. By that logic, the animatronic that had its head ripped off at the end credit scene should have likely also had its head ripped off during gameplay. Yet, I'm pretty sure all of those animatronics, all the nightmares, still had their heads. Mango still even had both of hers. So, that. But the thing is, one thing I also want to very specifically draw attention to is that all of the Foxy and Foxy adjacent things, Like I mentioned, one of the animatronics had their head off. That one was Foxy. The one animatronic that doesn't attack you immediately, instead goes to hide in the closet to jump you from there, it's Foxy. Okay. And there's and all this, and not even that, but even throughout the entire series, Foxy's kind of been the weird one, and but that's only really when you're still playing as Michael. Once you reach sister location, they seemingly stop with the weirdity of Foxy, him just kind of being the oddball. But genuinely, why specifically Foxy with the different game mechanics in the first game? With the fact that he's not even really there, except for the withered version in the second game. There's no toy version of it. Instead, they got Mangle. Heck, even when you finally see the non-torn up version of Mangle in FNAF World, she's not even called Toy Foxy. She's called Funtime Foxy, similar to the sister location version of her. But and no, yeah, but even going based off the opposite game mechanics in two, even going with Wither Foxy, he still is the only one who sees you through the mask. He's the only one where the mask just does not work for him at all. You have to flash him, blind him. You have to stare him down. Make sure he knows you see him. Like you're acknowledging him. Like he wants you to remember something that he represents in his existence. And then even in FNAF 3, and yeah, in FNAF 3 you don't deal with the animatronics, you deal with hallucinations of them. But some of them are still there. I mean, obviously we know the box of masks that contain the toy animatronics' faces, pretty much. But there's also in the corner, casting light through that hallway that you can see when either Shadow Freddy or even Springtrap himself go through, is a lamp. That lamp is literally just Foxy's torso and head on a lamp pole and being used as a lampshade. So he's kind of like a guiding light warning you. You know? And it's kind of just a weird thing to think about. And so in FNAF 4, for them to continue the specific weird fixation on Foxy being the odd one out, when we already know you're playing as Michael through the first three, it kind of creates this weird aspect where maybe we never stopped playing as Michael. Maybe we still are. Also, I just kind of tuned into the music playing through the headphones, the music I put on. Honestly, I think I picked the best time to have that revelation. And the soundtrack kind of immaculate hitting that part of it with that revelation. But I mean, don't get me wrong, this ain't really sound like I'm about to. I wish I had a little more to talk about it, but no, it's kind of it. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I have more for the theory, but less for this specifically the Foxy comparisons to add to the theory. But either way, I just want to elaborate. Everything kind of boils down to the sound illusion disc being used to create a hell for Michael that's created by William as a punishment for killing one of his son and his brother. William's son, but Michael's brother. Because he wasn't going to kill his own child, especially now that he was now his only child. So instead, he creates the FNAF 4 houses and forces him to stay there as a punishment. And yes, and as I did mention, I did say that I believe that FNAF 4 takes place in the fourth bit of the timeline. Okay, it specifically takes place after 3. And yeah, if he takes place after 3, then he's already become an adult. Why would he be back in this place experiencing the hell? So, I believe it's for one reason. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, Scott Cawthon keeps bringing up this box, this building shape, the FNAF 4 house. It's being rebuilt in security breach and ruin. It's there. It's everywhere. It's the FNAF 4 house. If it's the house, no, the house on the hill, then why is it being buried along with the original pizzeria underground in ruin? Why is it part of an underground facility in sister location? Every time we've heard or seen this house, or seen the actual house, it's on top of a hill, high up, like it's on a pedestal. Yet every time we've seen it in the inside, we're not seeing it in the layout of the rooms. It's always as part of an underground facility. Why is that? Why is that the case? Why, oh, why, oh, why? It's because we never really were in that house. We were never in the house on the hill. We were in a hell made to resemble that house. And here's a bit of something that I just want to add for this. In Murray's Costume Emporium, in Secret of the Mimic, there are tapes littered everywhere about that FNAF 4 house on the hill, supposedly being the one owned by Edwin Murray, where he lived when his wife died, and he rebuilt her to be to basically to be the original mimic. Original mimic built her voice when his son died, and that mimic, the original wife, told him to just rebuild the son, and where supposedly that son of his killed him while mimicking him. So almost like he killed himself, which, again, I do acknowledge the fact that everyone keeps claiming, like, oh, we never really saw a body, so he'll probably come back, but that's the thing. I don't really think he needed to come back, but I don't think it needs to come back, but I think it'd be freaking weird as frick if he did, especially with how we know, like, the MXs or whatever is supposedly a reconstructed version of his wife. The mimic of his wife that got turned into the mixes to help subdue the angry child that is now the current mimic. But either way, yeah, I do personally believe that that original house was something Afton probably just reasonably had the blueprints from, because in one of the aforementioned audio messages, I think I got out before I got sidetracked, he mentioned buying the deed or whatever to the house to bulldoze the man's house to get him to work on time, which, again, clearly horrible scumbag. Horrible, horrible scumbag. That Afton is clearly showing he is. So obviously, if he got the deed to the place, and he really bulldozed it, you think it would have been that hard for him to get the blueprints to it as well, to create a bunker or whatever, a bunch of rooms to resemble the layout of it? Maybe we were never truly in the house, but we were in it was a recreation of it. Heck, that could even be why we never really see the actual house on the hill. We only ever see a silhouette of it, because that's all we were ever really in. We were never in the real house. We were just in like a freaking figment of it. We were in a creation of it. We were in an illusion, a shadow of it, casted by the original design. We were in, essentially, a sound illusionist territory. But what I believe be the reason why we are back, or Michael is put back into it, forced to live this hell after he's killed, or not killed, but I don't know. I mean, it says it burned down at the end, but let's be honest, bro was already dead, and as we see later, he do be coming back a lot. As we even see in the pizzeria seminar that was, as we see that, he does come back even once more, so I don't think he's really ever truly going to die. But the thing is, I genuinely do believe that likely, because mind you, he was already going to every location to do something. You know, In the first game, he's coming there because as we learned in the second game, which apparently is a prequel, he was already kind of following his father to, I guess, find them or something. Heck, even in, I think, sister location or whichever version, he even says, "I'm going to come find you." Thing is, why? Why does he want to find his father? Except for, there's only one reason I can think of, and this is part of the reason why I actually believe it's just the fourth game in the series takes place after the third. And this also kind of clears up one little thing that is the reason why I'm waiting to where I haven't brought it up, so I can bring it up now. But I believe when he goes to this in the second game, he goes to that P3 of us. It's because that's likely around the time the first murders probably started. So he wants to know why. Why after all these years he had probably tortured him, now he's killing. He probably found out something about him doing it, and he just wants to know why. He goes to the second location, which for us would have been the location in the first game. He doesn't find them. He doesn't find any some of them. And maybe he finds the dead kids. His suits and whatnot, but he still doesn't find them. Then that's when he goes to the third location and he finds his father, a rotting mess of hatred and agony, bound to the suit that he died in. Mind you, we don't see like the buildings in the first two games burning down. We don't know what happened to the buildings. We only know that us as the player got fired for tampering with the animatronics and smelling like we haven't showered in a long while. That's literally. But in the third game, we kind of get confirmed that that place was burnt. That shit went down in a blaze. And it wasn't of glory. It was likely of something else. But that's the thing. We genuinely don't know. And that leaves. So that would basically leave Michael. Finally found his father, but never got to ask the question. Never found why. Never found out how. So, all he's got is one last chance, one last place to give answers. Maybe, hopefully, he can finally figure out why. So he goes to the house on the hill, or the recreation of it, made by his father to torment him. With the sound illusion disc created to specifically make him relive the animatronics that him and his buddies were dressed as well as specifically, definitely the ones that ended it all. Maybe that's why Plush Trap is now there. Because maybe originally he wasn't, but now he knows what happens to his father. There's a new one, Plush Trap. After working at FNAF 2 for so long, even if it was only 5 nights, trust me, Balloon Boy was going to be added. That boy is a nightmare. He is a nightmare. And mind you, we know what the golden thread there and suit and whatnot. We know obviously the toys and trucks there because they're part of the prequel. But and we also know the regulars were there because well the crying child had plushies of them. But what we don't understand is Balloon Boy's inclusion. He never saw a toy of Balloon Boy. He saw a child that looked like Balloon Boy, but I don't really think that was enough to have Balloon Wish in the hallway. Getting his own hallway the same way that Plush Trap did. Mind you, Balloon Boy and Plush Trap have similar game mechanics where they sit on a chair and come after you if you don't keep your eyes on them. Unlike the other animatronics, which actually attack you in your room. And I actually don't know how specifically Mangle and Nightmare Network, because I haven't seen any gameplay of them, and most of the people who talk about them in the lore don't talk about their game mechanics, or just generally don't talk about them, which is kind of sad. I'd like to hear more about specifically Nightmare Net for sure. They got a cool design. They got lore. Trust me, ain't no dang way. They ain't important to the lore. It's the nightmare version of the puppet. Of course, it's got lore. But I ain't got any information to try and do anything with it because ain't nobody giving information about it. And I'm broke. It will take several months before I have enough money just using the Google Opinion reward app and like using play points for some cha-ching in points for dollars. Take me a while, before, probably even a couple months before I'm able to get the third game on mobile, and that's made by Click Team. And Click Team got a reputation, and I've heard on mobile it's kind of worse. But like, if that's how they do with mouse. If it's how they do with mouse movements is that bad, I don't even want to know how to do it. Just finger taps. And I got ADHD and a very speedy fingies. I got some fast phalanges, but oh boy, I'll absolutely get myself killed trying not to. But yeah, either way, uh, either way, I do believe that when we play through Fast FNAF 4, we are playing specifically through Michael Afton, attempting to relive the nightmares that his father forced him to live through. They may be the nightmare animatronics, but that doesn't explain how they're able to kill you. Everyone else believes, oh, you're flatline, oh yeah, heart attack, but they're still there. How can the animatronics be there and look that different? It's because, well, it's not illusion disc. The things that Mike, the thing that William had already described. And they're wondering, why would they even want to go after you? It's because, well, everyone claims that Michael looks like his father in the game. So, let's just go with that assumption as well. If he looks like his father, eh, then obviously they want to kill him. Now, likely the animatronics don't see the illusions. They see what looks to be a scared version, or maybe it's only a slightly younger version of the man who killed them. So obviously they want their revenge. But Michael sees it differently. He sees the scariest versions, or what he perceives to be the scariest versions of the animatronics that his younger brother loved so much, as well as the one that killed his younger brother, a plush version of his father, a scary quote unquote nightmare version of Balloon Bitch, and specifically a phantom remnant silhouetted by the one that killed his brother, but most clearly visible, the endo underneath. Nightmare very clearly does not have any sort of scary endo over, like, under his stuff. But we do see the endo, and it is basically kind of just the equivalent of a basic spring lock endo as far as I can tell. But maybe that's because what he it represents, what Nightmare truly represents, isn't just what if we made Nightmare Fredbear but black. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you can accuse Shadow Freddy of being that, but that's because there was more to him lore-wise. We don't have lore explanation for Nightmare. We only have what stares us right in the face and that simultaneously wants to bite our face off. And maybe that's all we needed. All we needed was that when we look at Nightmare, we don't just see Fredbear burnt. What we see is the endo encased in what is essentially a spectral body. And one last thing I want to mention specifically before I get to the final point, consider this an honorable mention, is specifically a call out on Matt Pat. Yeah, I'm calling him out on something. Before he left, there was a specific video that he was a part of that it was on G2 Live. They were talking about the security logbook, or one of the security books, whatever. Oh no, I think it was well, actually, no, it was specifically the video I think they were reacting, someone talking specifically about one of the conversations in the FNAF security logbook between the spirits. And I have to say this: why was he clearly not acknowledging the fact that those were supposed between the spirits, but there's only one person we know of that has died in this theory to become a ghost that wasn't a child. So this isn't just a conversation between ghosts; it's a conversation between dead children. And the conversations that he was looking at could absolutely have so much different context. Like the context could be drastically different if you put some emotion behind it. For instance, one of the things that they were talking about is a very specific conversation because I remember it specifically because I remember how it felt it should have been interpreted. There was one where it said, "Does he still talk to you?" Or there's one of the questions. I forget exactly what the question was, but the thing the person said in response, the ghost said, was, I can't remember." And they said it monotonely. And there is no way if you were a child and you got killed and you were struggling to remember something, you would just go as monotonely as possible. I can't remember. Like, seriously, there's no way. Like, I think the better way of interpreting it, which, yeah, does kind of affect the theory that was involving it, was the fact that he's known as the crying child. And I think it was him specifically that was saying, I can't remember. So, obviously, if he was quick to cry in real life, obviously, he's a kid who's dead, experiencing something he's never experienced before, doesn't know how to handle it. Of course, he's probably still crying. A way more accurate way for it to be read would be more like, I can't remember. You gotta have the fear in the voice, because that is likely what he was experiencing. It's not just a I can't remember, like a damn robot. No, it's I can't remember. Like I'm even putting my hand on my head to do this line. That's how much emotion I'm putting behind it. I'm trying to sum it up some tears, which ain't really hard. Might have to cut the video real quick. My stomach is going to eat me. But the thing is just remember, you're dealing with dead children, not dead robots. Remember, there will be emotions behind some of the things that you read. No one in this, none of the voice lines in this, is in these games that have them, have ever been monotone. Even though, like, some of the night guards sound like they're about as dead on the inside as they are on the outside by the time you get to night 5, they still have some semblance of the fact that they are still human beings. Human beings that need a nap, definitely, but human beings, but, but they're still human beings, not robots. Even if you are mostly killed by robots, those robots are haunted by the souls of dead human children. Just take note of that. Just remember that. But anyway, now on to the final point. The one thing that I just literally said I was going to do because I believed it was the case. I've given you all of the facts. I've given you why I believe what I believe, what I believe. Oh, but I have yet to tell you the actual belief, and I want to save it to the end because I think it'd be a nice treat. I mean, y'all have lasted almost an hour and a half. I think y'all deserve to finally get to hear the actual belief that I have for what's in the box. But that's the thing. I know there's still some plot holes for this. I know that there's still one last thing that I just remember that I forgot to actually point out because I never actually finished talking about it. But in the cutscene where the name color changes, I know I was mentioning that earlier. I brought that up specifically to call out the fact that that cutscene transitions from the old like pixel art minigame to the box not being in that art style. Meaning that box is something you actually see when you finish the 5th night of Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Meaning that's not something that's part of the original minigame. That's Michael's point of view. Or, presumably Michael if the theory is correct. In that box is the stuff that Michael doesn't want to remember. Because in that box is Foxy memorabilia. It's specifically the things like the Foxy mask and stuff like that. It's literally him trying to remember. I believe personally, because in the other 3 games, the mini games we play resemble the events around each of the pizzerias. But the fact that in the 4th game, we are playing mini games related to his brother, Michael's brother, crying child. We are, and therefore are playing as a crying child in the mini games. I believe what's in that box is something that Michael locked away because he wanted to forget his brother. He wanted to forget. He wanted to pretend like the whole thing never happened. Look, kids do stupid stuff all the time. And to be honest, the only difference was, and we all did stupid things as kids. We all did. I was forced to mature at a very early age to the point where I was damn near not even a kid my entire. I never had an actual childhood even as a kid, but even though I didn't really have a good or even proper childhood or experience a proper one, I still did dumb things. Heck, I still do dumb things. I put a pause between those two do's just to keep myself from laughing because we all know what I would have basically just said. I'm holding back laughter right now just thinking about it. And that in itself is a dumb thing. Am I admitting that I'm currently trying to stop myself from doing a dumb thing? And, well, I'll also just add on, well, yes, and I'm even going to admit right now, it's getting harder the more I think about it. I'm going to laugh. If I don't distract myself with something else, but I'm trying not to derail the video too much. I think it's probably already got the hour 30. Yeah, it has, of course. But yeah, Foxy memorabilia. I believe it's specifically the Foxy memorabilia. Foxy's and specifically other stuff that even likely even the plushies we see at the end. One of them having the Foxy head ripped off because likely Michael did it out of anger because he can't believe he did. He's angry, but I mean, but thing is, the plushies being in the box, likely even the mask that he wore, or specifically the Foxy mask, and I also want to bring up because I just thought of this right now. But we literally even get the Bonnie Bro mask from a box that kind of also resembles the FNAF 4 box. So they're saying there's a Foxy mask in that box wouldn't be too outlandish. It just likely has the Foxy mask. Likely his younger brother's there's plushies as well. And to have the Foxy head ripped off, that'd be something because, well, likely he was angry and he ended up getting his brother killed for his stupid prank. And that likely would have been the words that he would have said as his explanation. Remember, angsty teen, accurate description. So, yeah. So, likely, as the person who probably ended up setting it up, because he was the one most fault, he knew his brother didn't like the animatronics. He knew they scared him. He likely was the one who helped contribute to his birthday party happening at the place that scared him the most. His father probably didn't have any problems with it specifically because one, he worked there. If anyone knew about anything wrong that could happen, he would have. He was one of the frickin' franchise owners. Of course, he would have been like knowledgeable on any safety mishaps that could have caused any issues. But the only thing he couldn't have known was that his idiot of a son was going to get uh, his other son killed by putting his head in an animatronic. And one thing that I keep forgetting to mention, but I keep remembering it this end up not bringing up, is that one of the things people would call is the IV drag on that. Obviously, maybe he didn't die immediately. Maybe he did spend some time in the hospital, but likely his father and maybe even his brother too would have at some point came to visit him in the hospital. So those two would be the people to know about the IV bag, the heart monitor, and remembering it. And mind you, those things show up behind you next to the bed. And yeah, they obviously, when it's behind you and next to the bed, obviously you're not in the bed. You're honestly kind of laying at the foot of it. Or more likely actually just sitting there at the foot of it. But you're never really on the bed. Freddles are, but you're not. Nightmare Freddy eventually does get on there once there's enough Freddles collected, but you're never really on the bed. You're stuck there at the foot of it the entire time. Just like someone coming to visit It's their sibling who is currently on their deathbed at the hospital. You're not going to climb the hospital bed with the person who's dying. No. You're going to be in there, you're at the foot of it or by their side, which likely William wouldn't have allowed Michael to get that close out of just sheer anger and whatnot. Like, no, you will stay there at the foot of the bed where you're the farthest from you can be. So, that seems something I thought of now, but another reason why I said to put off making this video for so long, but had to be made, and yeah, it's just basically pharmacy memorabilia. And yeah, I put a lot more effort into explaining the evidence, but I genuinely believe there's more to prove this theory is valid than there is that the theory is worth it. But this is what I believe to be the real thing behind FNAF 4. It's not a let's live through the last 5 nights of a dying kid's. It's like literally last 5 nights alive. As he lives through traumatic nightmares. I think it's genuinely a hell Michael is forcing himself to go through. Specifically to try to find answers for why his father did the things that he did. Why? Why did he let himself go through with the stupid prank? Why did any of this happen? This isn't the story of this whole first 4 games is basically Michael's story, with it basically coming to a close in specifically sister location. The first 2 games, one game is to establish a story. The second game establishes the backstory. The third game is him finally finding the one person he's been trying to find for so long. The fourth game is him finally finding his answers, or some semblance of it. Maybe it's specifically through going through the hell again, realizing the sound delusion disc. Maybe that's what leads him to go to sister location, the only animatronics to use those said sound delusion discs. And after sister location, Bro gets hollowed out and used as a meat bag for the animatronics to escape. And after doing so, Bro genuinely just ends up coming back to life once they've all escaped out of him, using him as a puppet. You know? And at that point, all that's left is the story of, well, the pizzeria simulator. And I have to say, right now, the fact that we don't have any confirmation that Michael was even there in Pizzeria Simulator is kind of weird. Like, we don't know whether or not we're even playing as him as the night guard there. As far as we know, we are genuinely just some random dude. Heck, in the tape that plays, it's supposedly Henry giving a speech, like, the one where he specifically tells William, the darkest pits of hell have opened to swallow you whole. Don't keep the devil waiting, old friend. That tape gotta be one of the fucking hardest lines I've ever heard someone say as a "you're gonna die and I'm making sure of it" type of speech. That's gotta be one of the hardest ones ever. I don't think I've watched a lot of shows with characters given those types of speeches, and I don't think I've ever heard one that hit that hard. Just the devil, just the darkest pits of hell have opened to swallow you whole. Don't keep the devil waiting, old friend. Just hits hard. I don't think I'll ever not hit hard, like seriously. Oh, but it's genuinely, we know he's there. We also know as Elizabeth, who's in the baby animatronic. We know of Molten Freddy, who's essentially the other animatronics on the burn trap, and we know the marionette is inside of Lefty, but we don't know what really happens to Michael. We never really find that out. And I think he does mention like the night guard is a collateral piece. So it doesn't seem like Michael was meant like we don't seem like we were playing as Michael the entire time. It's like genuinely he was the night guard we were playing as genuinely was just some collateral piece of damage for this. Like we were just a sacrificial random NPC type guy. But other than that, obviously, Spring Boy ain't dead forever, as we know with the Mimic and stuff. And the security breach and ruin and stuff. I don't think he's ever, especially with Help Wanted VR, like we know he's never truly going to be dead. But we definitely do know that with all the stuff that has happened, is it really that far of a stretch to claim that damn near everything in FNAF 4 could be chalked up to just some disc making you see things through the sound, and that you're actually playing as the brother uh, of the kid who gets killed? Well, that's for you to decide. Is my theory a crack? Is it a cracked pot, or am I cooking? Who knows? I definitely know once I end this video, I'm gonna be cooking. Seriously. Seriously, an hour and 40 minutes of rambling. Yeah, I think I've earned the ability to eat. I say that as a joke, okay? Obviously, I don't have anything to eat in my kitchen at all anyways. If anything, I've earned a nap. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I have food in my kitchen. Well, rephrase that. I got ingredients in my kitchen. Edible ingredients, but ingredients nonetheless. I make something. I didn't call myself I don't call myself a culinary mad scientist for nothing. But that should be all I have covered for my theory. I think maybe I ended up covering the thing that I couldn't explain last time, but I still don't remember what it is. But that's genuinely the baseline for my theory. I believe it's specifically Foxy memorabilia and the FNAF memorabilia. The stuff that Evan, the crying child, used to love. Things that, from comments or words. And I believe that when the dialogue color changes in the FNAF cutscene, mind you, there is one of the theories I heard that's like specifically the one that I called out earlier about there being a sixth child murdered, and that the psychic friend Fredbear was the spirit of that sixth kid. I actually have a similar, but not exactly similar, but a different theory. See, the eye trick can be something like if you have a plushie and you look at it, there's like a thing that can happen similar to like with old paintings where they look like they're looking at you no matter where you go. But it's mostly because a lot of them just use basic black beady eyes, and the light, when it hits them, will reflect. And when it reflects, when you look at the eyes of it, it reflects and you move, it'll generally look like it's moving to follow you. It would kind of also explain why specifically the Cyclone Fedor has black eyes, but the part looking at you is specifically white. It's because it's not actually looking at you. It's just the trick of the light that makes you think it's looking at you. In reality, they're probably like black bead or button eyes, and he's almost always placed specifically in a portion of the room that likely a light source would hit, like a ceiling light or whatever. So likely it's literally just he's not looking at you, it's just the light. Or in other words, a trick of the light. Or in even clear that I'm insinuating something words, an illusion. So yeah, but that's genuinely what I believe. The entirety of the first 5 games, 1 through 4, plus this location, is meant to be the journey of Michael. It's Michael's journey, with a proper end of the chapter being specifically ultimate custom night. And I believe when we pick up in Security Breach, we are moving beyond Michael's chapter, as we are now introduced to Gregory, the new random kid, as well as Cass, another new random child, and specifically the Glamrocks. And this time, Freddy is not the one leading the charge to come for our head and chow down and wanting to stuff us in our pants. Instead, he's actually in the charge to get us out of there. And it's why specifically when we play for Help 1 and 2, we find out we're playing as Cass's father, who was originally the Bonnie Bro. And I believe at some point we're going to find out that Gregory is probably also related to one of the people in, well, that initial 4. And similarly to how when we played through Ruin, or you know, anyone who did play through Ruin, when we found the Mimic at the end, in Secret of the Mimic, we find out that the Mimic was originally, well, a robot designed to mimic a child that was lost due to one little accident. They weren't being watched and they ran into the road and got hit. Yeah. So yeah. And that child was originally the child of Edwin Murray, the guy who owned the house on the hill. A kind of a semblance of remembrance towards Michael. Like even if his story's over, it's still the events still happen. It's basically the equivalent of the past coming back to haunt them. You know? It's literally what the mimic is. It's a mimic that's been given the data of William, the killer of the one who killed those initial children. And it was created by the guy who lived on the house. The house that, resembles the one that you try to survive in FNAF 4. Or at least survive in the recreation of. Recreation meant to mimic the original house. You know? And yeah. And now, as we move forward into the series, I think we should definitely be prepared to maybe see more of the other 3. We've already found out what's happened to Bonnie Bro, and who knows, maybe the next game we'll get introduced to another new random child. And then in either a DLC or in a mainline game, we'll get introduced to, well, another one of those 4. They'll probably also be the father of that new child. And maybe for the last father they'll introduce who originally Gregory's parents actually were. And we'll find out that we are now playing as the children of the friends that Michael Afton had. I mean, we already know when we played as Cass, we played as the child of Bonnie Bro. Wouldn't be too unreasonable to say that Gregory happened to be a child of either the Chica Bro or the Freddy Bro. And matter of fact, I think specifically it makes more sense to find out he's the son of the Freddy Freddy guy, because of his specific fascination with Glamrock Freddy. Because it could even make sense that with Cassie's father being a fast technician, that he would have been able to execute some program that would have made it so, just in case they were all still friends, that Freddy would have some specific dialogue for Gregory when they came by, and when he specifically saw supposedly Gregory in the crowd, his error kicked in because he was in stage mode, and that could have been what caused the error. And mind you, it was the error, as well as him kind of being shut down, why when the Mimic program infected the other animatronics, Freddy didn't get infected, supposedly. there was no bonsai mimic buddy on his systems. Yes, that was a poorly did bonsai buddy joke slash reference. Thank you for not noticing. Please, just boo at the joke. That was horrible. But yeah, either way, yeah, it's just everything lines up to say that in that box was, well, the memories. And I think the fact that we specifically left with that box closed and the phrase, some things are better left forgotten, maybe, what we got was the equivalent of like a bad ending or whatever. Non-diamond. And us choosing is us, and that bad ending is us, as Michael, choosing to leave the past forgotten, to just not remember, because it's hurting too much too. That's what that nightmare is. That's what the nightmares are. They're the pain and the trauma that Michael had gone through, watching his own brother die each night as his brother wasted away in the hospital. That's actually would be why, randomly, some nights, instead of having the random actual things that go beside the bed, we get the heartbeat monitor. It's why we specifically see the IV drugs. It's why we get the type of clocks that we hear of the the medical stuff. It's why all this stuff would happen. Obviously, he'd be there visiting his brother in the hospital, and he'd see and hear those things too. And it'd be more likely that he'd see them compared to his brother, who had his frontal lobe, nommed on. Again, the bandages, there's no guarantee that he'd even be able to have those off enough to not cover his eyes from being able to see them. Oh, yeah. And genuinely, I do believe that in that DLC that Scott mentioned, where the box was going to get opened, what we would have seen would have been essentially maybe just a Foxy mask, some plushies, Jesus, and just like potentially even a heart-touching image of all three of the Athens together with maybe like a torn piece like off, which like represents, which would have basically torn off a piece of like, it would have been like just enough of a piece that like their mother would have been part of the photo because it would have been a family photo, and the piece like the would have been like a corner of it that was like torn off. That corner would have had like their mother's face on it or whatever, or maybe it just would have been a photo of the three, William, Michael, and Evan, and heck, maybe it even would have had their names on it, but maybe it would have had a moment of them being happy together. It would have been like some emotional thing of like the last happy memory they had. It's always, in reality, what would have really been, or at least while he was still alive, the crying child's happiest day. Or, the mini game that keeps getting retold over and over again. This has it being the quote unquote happiest day. And I will admit, yeah, maybe the theory still has some plot holes. Maybe there's still more. Maybe there's things that can easily dismiss me. Maybe the fact that when Scott Cawthon was putting up teasers with the Nightmare animatronics, specifically putting numbers in their eyes, the fact that he put the numbers in their eyes to be specifically about the bite, the numbers with the year that the bite happened, Evan specifically, supposedly, the crying child, because it's his bite. Maybe that was supposed to represent those were nightmares created due to the actions that Michael had did that night, or that day, I guess. It was his birthday. But either way, it's genuinely just this theory could be like any other theory and be so easily disproven, but so hardly disproven at the same time. So easy to prove, but so easy to disprove. Like any good FNAF theory. All I have left to say is congratulations, you probably to anyone watching this as a game theory reaction. Just be grateful you were probably watching Ash react and not MatPat. So you probably only had to watch this, and now I'm coming up on almost 2 hours worth of footage. I'd say you probably only had to sit through 8 videos rather than 80. Seriously, MatPat. I don't know if they're gonna bring you back just to react to this because of how big and unhinged it is. It is a 2-hour video talking about the FNAF 4 box. But come on, man. Put the pause button down. I even put some moments of quietness in this. Oh, oh. You have an issue. You need to stop making out with the pause button. Seriously. You want the pause button, get a room, and just do whatever. I swear, Stephanie gonna be jealous with how much you touching the pause button. I'm so grateful that Ash learned to just do something that, oh my goodness, Ash, thank you. This was last thing. I thank you to Ash for just not pausing as much. And for anyone watching this as the regular vid, the 2 hours of content, yeah, I still haven't reached the 2 hour mark yet. Hold on, I'll get there. I'm just going to continue rambling bits. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But thank you for everyone who sit through this near 2 hours of me just ranting about how I believe there's just memories, or at least things, items that would help trigger memories in that box. And why the phrase is behind some things are better left forgotten being compared to the box not being opened or even unlocked is something that means more. It has meaning. And the color change for the text is genuinely, I believe, when when Fredbear is talking to Michael, everyone seems that first most people claim that it's specifically William talking through the plush, not being able to be there, should be there through the plush. I don't inherently think that's wrong, but I think it'd be more accurate to say maybe it is an Afton, but maybe it's not William. Maybe when the colors change, it's still an Afton, but that's when it's William. I will put you back together. That's why he experiments with the remnants. That is why he takes the agony of these dead children. Maybe it's because he just wants to save the kid. Because we don't know if, like, we do supposedly know that supposedly Chica, the soul in here, Chica with her Chica, was the first one actually killed. But we don't really know how long he's been experimenting with Remnant to try to bring people back before he killed them. Or even after. He could have just been murdering just for the love of murdering, you know what I mean? I mean, in today's day and age, I can definitely see there being a lot more child murderers. Am I going to say I'd be open to murking some children? No. I'd punch one into the sun, but I'm not going to stab a knife through them. I'm not going to waste a blade. And even then, I'm not just going to go around punting children, okay? Just only if they do one of the really annoying memes that are nowadays. One last thing I just need to mention. Every meme before Gen Alpha had at least something, even the Gen Z ones. E was an icon, was funny, not because it was a deep fried image containing the letter E and someone in a courtroom with a Lord Farquaad haircut and Markiplier's face. It wasn't that what made it funny, it was everything that represented. Markiplier was always called short. You know, short with a handsome face. damn near the exact description of Lord Farquaad, which is why people used to occasionally Photoshop Markiplier with Lord Farquaad's hair, or in other words, Lord Farquaad with Markiplier's face. And putting that head and a face in a random room with a guy pointing in a courtroom, it's literally just Ace Attorney. They basically made Ace Attorney. The fact that they put the letter E and the deep frying of the image was because that was just the thing at the time. People were deep frying images constantly. It was funny. Could we explain why it was funny? Absolutely not. But a lot of the memes, when you see them deep fried, they're hilarious. The letter E, that's probably just because damn near every video game on PC usually had E be the key you press to interact. Matter of fact, that could have even been why specifically the guy in the courtroom was pointing. It was like, press E. Heck, even adding the fact that it's Markiplier, his face on the guy. E. Lord Farquaad haircut? That's just because to emphasize the fact of Markiplier being short was one of the funniest things to joke about around that time. As was, as was also Markiplier being the king of Five Nights at Freddy's. Yes. But genuinely, there was meaning behind it. Was it funny on its own? No, but with everything that it represented, that's what made it funny. It wasn't funny because it was funny on its own. It was funny because it reminded you of funniness. 6, 7. Sorry, I can't say it with funny. That's not funny. It's a dumb looking kid holding his hands up and down, saying two numbers just because it happened in a music video. You know why everyone in the Gen Z or the millennials, everyone wondering why that's funny? It's because it's not funny. They're just saying two numbers, moving their hands, and laughing like they just snorted the longest line of narcotics ever. And they are currently tasting the rainbow, and I don't mean eating Skittles. It is genuinely crazy that any of these quote unquote memes ever made it past existing. We have hyperbolically time chambered stupidity, and we all need to put the devices away. See, alright. See, I told you I can make it to the 2 hour mark. 202. But I think I just sorry up and end this rant. All I'm going to say is keep an open mind during any theory stuff. And yeah, I'll admit there is still some issues with my theory likely. But if you want, you can try to solve those issues, or you can just disregard my theory entirely. That's entirely your choice. But just remember, we're talking about dead children, not dead robots. Remember, they have emotion. A lot of those lines in the books that you read, even written by the dead children, are likely of them crying. Some of which are still experiencing fear from the fact that they are coming to terms with they are dead. Read them with emotion, and trust me, you'll be much easier to find the single drop in the ocean. And that's all for now. I wish you all a good night, good afternoon, or even a good morning or good evening, or just even such as simply a good day. Because this is going to be the Wise Barbarian signing off. Bye. Bye.